Good morning and welcome to another fantastic edition of Money Truth Moments with our very own Money Truth expert and whisperer, Judy Copenbarger. How are you?
I am great. I am just back from an amazing time with friends that have been friends for decades, toes in the sand, beautiful blue glistening water. Pretty cool. So got away for a few days and just had a great time. I'm refreshed and ready to go. How are you,
Hey,
Carlos?
I'm doing fantastic, but I'm going to ask you something really quick before we even get started. What is
Sure.
one highlight of your trip?
Oh, just downtime with good friends, having the ability to do nothing and just be in the room and say nothing and just be like home. And these are friends that I see, maybe a couple of times a year. We usually travel together. But just, having people that know you so well and still think you're great. Yeah,
Huh,
it's just good. It's like being home. It was a wonderful trip.
you got to love those people, right? They're like fans for life for sure.
Yeah, it's
So
great when you don't have to do anything. There's no big agenda. Like, what do you want to do today? Don't know, don't care. As long as we're together, it's good.
those are the best times for sure.
Yeah.
Folks, if you're just joining us for the first time, please make sure you follow Judy at judycopenbarger.today. Today, I am like every week. I'm very excited about today's topic because we've been on this trend of just great financial planning and all that. And today we're going to talk about shared money decisions and how families build or break financial plans, and that's going to be a heavy subject. So, folks, if you are just tuning in, please make sure you share this stream with friends and family. They can benefit also from the great wisdom that Judy shares in all of the shows. So, what you're going to learn today is going to be how shared money decisions impact this long-term financial success, how financial communication affects planning, and what simple steps families can take to align these financial goals. So, what do you say we get started, Judy?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
So let me start by asking you, how do shared money decisions shape a family's the long-term financial future?
Oh, well, they're going to shape it. It's going to make you or break you, right? Planning or lack of planning, which in my mind is a plan. It's an intent not to. So it's just having common goals. You can be successful or not. And then determining what are the common goals that we have. What do we want in our monthly, daily life? What do we want in our short-term objectives? What kind of car do we want to drive? Where do we want to live? What kind of lifestyle do we want to create? And then putting together legacy. What are our long-term goals? Do we want to leave money for the kids or run out right before we die and time
Right.
that right? And everybody has a different idea about that. So I think the long-term financial health or success of a family comes from having common goals for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's we tend to oversee that a lot. I think, and when we challenge assumption, I think some of the things and questions that come up is why is financial communication so important for families, and I'm hoping that you drive that message
Mhm.
home for everybody, for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The communication, working together, having common goals, spending the time talking about it, being intentional about having money be part of the conversation of life. What are we going to do today? What are we going to do this week? What are our goals? And that's a planner's perspective, right? I'm a planner, so I love that stuff. But it's amazing how many people go through life without proper goals. What do I want to achieve? By when do I want to achieve it? Not just like, I want to be healthy. That's really not a proper goal. You can do things that move you toward or from it, but how do you measure whether the goal is achieved? You have to have by this date, I want to have this level of metabolic weight. I want to have these numbers, my cholesterol numbers, or whatever the numbers are you're working at. Those are measurable. Maybe fitness, how many pull-ups can I do, right? Things like that. So you want to have very certain measurable, achievable goals. And then when you have accountability with other people, that's when success happens. Those are the goals that turn up being achieved.
Share with us in some of your experiences, and maybe think of one, maybe either recent or one that stood out for you, where you've seen that lack of communication just create chaos for someone, and how did you help them overcome that?
Yeah, there's good, bad, and ugly. You want to hear about the ugly. give
Exactly.
me a, give me a dramatic story.
Give me
There's
the
so
dirt. Yep.
There are so many. I get most of the good stories because those are my clients. They're working through it and they're spending time, effort, money, to work through it and be successful. So there are probably a lot more stories that I don't hear about of people that fail. But I think there are probably people that kind of fall off from the planning and you hear from them less. And, they weren't really accountable and then they have excuses and, all the things we humans do when we really aren't into it. Those are probably the stories that I don't hear of, the dramatic failures, and now they're living in the poorhouse or a van down by the river somewhere. I won't be emailing those people, probably. I won't hear from them. So I really don't have, top of mind a dramatic story. I can think of a few families that just kind of fizzled, their planning fizzled, and you kind of wonder, how are they doing now? Sometimes I'll check in and sometimes I just don't hear. Um, so I really, if I think of one, I'll let you know. But I don't have
Okay.
a big dramatic story of some awful, result. Now I can tell you on the estate planning side, the disharmony that can occur around money when there's not intention, and I'm talking legacy here. What do you want for your kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids, legacy wise? When I see families that don't have that set in stone and just a real course, charted for that, I do see families fall apart with disharmony at best and, total separation and anxiety, sometimes generationally upset about some money thing. I do see those stories, but not so much like financial despair in my world. I just don't see it.
And you kind of touched on the disharmony part of it, but in asking a different way also regarding that is what problems happen when families really are not aligned financially. And we've
Well, I'd say
discussed this before, but yeah.
absolutely. I'd say at best disharmony. And that can happen just with spouses. It's like, we disagree about should we save more or should we spend more? I was just with someone who they're getting ready to do a big addition to their home. And it took years of thinking and talking and interviewing and arguing and lobbying, for what are we going to do? What are we not going to do? Do we spend the money? Do we not? Do we spend the money? Because they didn't grow up in the same household, right? So they have different attitudes about money, different values about money, what it means to save, what it means to spend, all of those things. And if you're not totally aligned or willing to become aligned enough to get something done that is common, you're going to have at least disharmony. And then you see couples, they fight about the two things. There's money and then the other thing, that's a different show. We well know what that is. But those are the two things, the intimacy issues and the money is where our values are. And those two issues impact every other aspect of our life every day. You can't separate, the aspects of life that way. And money decisions happen every day. Money choices happen every day. And if you're not rowing the same direction as your spouse or the other people in your family who are helping you make financial decisions, you are going to have, at best disharmony and at worst disillusion. You're going to end up just splitting up, whether it's your kids disagree, you never loved me enough, you didn't buy me the Rolls Royce, whatever. Um, or you're going to have marital issues disagreeing about, well, we should have more in savings, you should earn more, well, you should spend less, all of those things. So you got to just keep working at it. This is a nut that's worth cracking and worth being consistent about for sure.
Folks, if you're just joining us, please make sure you're following Judy at judycopenbarger.today. There's a lot of wealth of content on our website, resources, videos, all that good stuff. So make sure you're following and sharing also her social media as well too. So we are talking a very careful subject today because we want to pay attention to shared money decisions, and this is how families build or break financial plans. So let's keep the conversation going, and let me ask you, we've talked about we talked about the bad in some cases, right? And how to kind of touch on that. But let's change things up about just plain simple education, right? Just how can families begin setting shared financial goals?
Well, I like to say, and I've said for many, many, many years, it all starts with a financial roadmap. What are our values? And we have our own, right? Because we're different people. Even if we're so aligned, like Larry and I have been married over 40 years, we've known each other almost 50. We have a lot in common. And if you talk to one of us, the other one will often echo. But we're not the same people. So when we create a value staircase, what's important about that to you? What's important about that to you? They're very different answers, even though we're a lot alike. And I see that with couples. It's really an interesting exercise, but you want to get your values. You want to line up goals with those values and then actually get an honest look of where you are. What exactly do we have in place to achieve our goals? Even if it feels like a big shortfall to you, you want to look at it. You got to look at it, right? You can't change what you don't first acknowledge. And then where do we want to be? And then you have where you start, where you finish, like a map. I'm going to start in Orange, California. I'm going to go to Seattle, Washington. I don't know why I'd go there right now, but coffee is good, I hear. And so I'm just going to get on the 5 and go north for like 2 days, right? And so it's just a point A, where am I? Point B, where do I want to be? That's a financial roadmap. And you can do that in all of the areas of finance. And I think doing that as a common exercise in a family is so valuable. And doing it maybe every year or two, because things change, right? Your money changes, your income changes, your kids grow up, all those things change. So starting with the financial roadmap, and then that's a matter of having proper goals that are, what do I want right now? What do I want soon? What do I want later? And sometimes, you just think about it. If I have $5,000 a month to do stuff with, and in 10 years, I want to be here. Like, we want to buy a new house or a second home or something. How much of that $5,000 discretionary income do I need to put toward the goal of having that property, that new house in 5 years or 10 years or whatever? So working on that, you can, achieve or point out the goal, work backwards, where you are. So I might have to give up a little something now to have a little something later. And the inverse is true too. I might have to give up a little something later, maybe delay retirement or maybe not have, the country club experience, because I really want to do things now, like travel or educate my kids or have a big house that everybody wants to come to. And so sometimes you have to choose, is it for now or for later? And when you do that together, that's where the harmony comes in. That's where the common values come in. And that's where life is fun. It's like, oh, we have a common goal. We're working together. If you think about the deepest relationships that you have, the ones that just, like I was just talking about with my friends, when you're together, it's like we never left, it might be a year or two. And it's like we were just together last week. Those?
Yep.
It's because there was you were in the trenches together. There was some commonality. You were educating yourselves together. You were, in this case, my friends all have either twins or triplets. So we were in the trenches together with our babies, way back. And it's like really relying on each other. What stroller do I buy? How do I get through? How do you nurse triplets? How do you do these things and survive? It might be military. You hear about veterans that they just have lifelong friends, family that are born out of these experiences that they have together. And that can happen in family with financial goals too. So I don't know how I got down on a tangent with that, but that's how it is. It's these being in the trenches together, having common goals, working hard together toward something that we want to achieve, commonality. That's where those relationships and those values can really show up for you.
And that's a perfect way also to transition into shifting the thinking, right? So in your opinion, like, what is one regular money conversation families should be having today instead of putting it off?
Yeah, I think a check-in. I think you want to have regular check-ins. And if it's something you're really working on, if you're really working on the financial parts of your life right now, quarterly would probably be a good place to start. Maybe the first week of every quarter. So it's going to be January, April, October, right? So you're going to get together and check in and say, how are we doing? And there might be one aspect, and you know what it is. We're working on retirement. We're working on protecting with insurances. We're working on getting our estate plan together and putting legacy together, or structuring our business, maybe for an acquisition or a merger. Or maybe we're building our business to the next level, deciding if the kids are going to be involved with it or not as they grow up. But you want to look at the aspects of finances and check in maybe every quarterly. So how are we doing with earning? Maybe you're in the season where you just need to earn more. What can we do creatively to get more income? Where's it going to come from? Maybe it's spending. Maybe we need to work on our budget and our spending plan and just get a handle on, we've got pretty good income, but poof, that experience, where did it go? Getting a
Yeah.
handle on how the money is allocated as it leaves the household, managing money, growing it, protecting it, giving. Maybe we'd like our giving to be increased or decreased. What goals can we have there? And I think if you have goals and an idea of direction you want to go, that financial roadmap, and every quarter you set time, maybe you go to coffee or you have a date night, or you just shut the door and say, for 2 hours, we're just going to discuss money stuff. Check in and say, how are we doing? What 1 or 2 or 3 things do we need to do to move us in the right direction and get us closer to the goal line?
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to try to squeeze in one final obvious question before we get to the tail end of the show is, what do you think that families avoid money conversations, even when we know that money affects everything?
Because we're people. We like to avoid conflict. We like to avoid stress. We want the easy button. We want to make it the path as easy and soft as possible, comfortable. We like to be comfortable. So that's why, why would you go into a meeting that's going to be all stressful if you have to, if you have another way out? So yeah, we're human.
And folks, we are at the tail end of the show. And as I mentioned, you know what that means. It's our Money Truth Challenge, and I don't know if I should be afraid or excited about this one. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
you should be excited, Carlos. Be excited. It's a simple challenge. Now, it's one of those things that, is it simple? Is it easy too? Maybe simple, but not so easy. So just schedule a simple money conversation with your family that is going to take you toward a goal. What common goals do we have? Like, let's say in 5 years from now, where do we want to be? Exactly here? Do we want to have more in savings? Do we want to have more in retirement? Do we want to be traveling more? Do we want to be having more leisure? Or maybe we should, maybe pull back and save some for the future. Just schedule one simple, single, doable thing, one simple money conversation, and have it. Put it on the calendar and have that conversation. And that'll help you move forward with your financial goals and your financial success of your family.
All right, folks, you heard the challenge. Please share with us if you're having any issues with it. If you also would like to have any other additional topics for Judy to address, please make sure you send us a message. And more importantly, make sure you are following Judy at judycopenbarger.today. Make sure you share it with your friends, family, follow her on social media. Next week, we're going to wrap up March. Actually, this week, we're wrapping up March with all of this, but we're going to start talking about legal planning and why that's important in major life changes. So you want to stick around, you want to share the show. We're here every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. with the replays on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Judy, any last parting words?
Yeah, make it a great day. Make it a great week. Hug those who are near you and call those who are not, like on the phone. Don't text them, call them, and keep those relationships going. That's really what it's all about.
All right, folks. Until next week, take care. Be safe.